Welcome to Global Tax Talks Tax in 60 Seconds. I'm Will Morris, and here are some things to look out for in the coming week. The American baseball great and part-time philosopher Yogi Berra once said, "It's tough to make predictions, especially about the future." And that has never been more true than last week, with US Treasury Secretary Bessent announcing Thursday, on social media of course, "We will announce a joint understanding among G7 countries that defends American interests. OECD Pillar 2 taxes will not apply to US companies, and we will work cooperatively to implement this agreement across the OECD G20 inclusive framework in coming weeks and months. Based on this progress and understanding, I have asked the Senate and House to remove the Section 899 protective measure from consideration in the One Big Beautiful Bill." Now, as of yet, we don't know the details of the agreement, but the Republican heads of the Senate Finance and House Ways and Means Committee quickly signaled their intent to pull Section 899 out of the current tax legislation going through Congress. In a joint statement, they said, "Reaching a joint understanding with the G7 means that the US can reclaim tens of billions of dollars that had been ceded from our tax base by Democrats. At the request of Secretary Bessent, and in light of this joint understanding, to preserve US tax sovereignty and allow US tax laws to coexist with the Pillar 2 regime, we will remove proposed tax code Section 899 from the One Big Beautiful Bill." Now again, while not knowing any of the details of this agreement, there are a couple of things worth noting when it comes to things happening swiftly. The first is that even within the G7, changing laws quickly may not be easy. In France, for example, President Macron does not control a majority in the French National Assembly, and the parties of the right and the left might not necessarily react well to a request that might be portrayed as a giveaway to US business. Second is a relatively obvious point that the G7 is, well, just that, 7 countries, one of whom is the US. Over the course of the BEPS process, the G7 has antagonized many countries by appearing to shape the Pillar 1 and Pillar 2 rules in its own interests. So it might not be a given that what the G7 has agreed to can be translated, and especially quickly translated, into broader/universal agreement. Finally, and as I've said several times before, any tax plans could be completely blown off course by tariff action, quite a lot of which may still be forthcoming. So we'll see how this goes. But if it drags out too long or isn't broad enough, then the 2 chairs of the relevant congressional tax committees made clear that they could return to Section 899. Congressional Republicans stand ready, they said, to take immediate action if the other parties walk away from this deal or slow walk its implementation. The implication is crystal clear. So another dramatic, prediction-confounding week, and probably not the last. But given the unfolding of events last week, it truly does again demonstrate the wisdom of Yogi Berra, who once sagely observed, "The future ain't what it used to be." Anyway, come back next week so that you stay global tax ready.